when you look at a Texas Chainsaw or Last House on the Left or something, and you're watching the movie, the people making the movie are untrustworthy. You're going, well, wait a minute. It's like, we're not supposed to. What the hell? You're watching it, and you're not in the hands of a master. You're in the hands of a maniac.
I was in a shopping, and I was in a Montgomery Ward's, or Sears hardware department, and the crowd was crushing it, and it was really, I wanted out of there, and I found myself standing right in front of a rack of chainsaws. And just the idea happened. I know how I could get out of here quickly. And something happened within about 30 seconds. It truly seems like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. The skeletal structure for the film and a lot of the texture too just fell in place. About kids, isolation, no gas, straight out of the no gas time. I think we were really, really afraid. Things may really change if we're really out of fuel. I think it was integral to its times, I think, in a way that you don't think of now when you see the movie. I mean, you see it, I think it washes over you, and it's scary and frightening, and a lot of stuff is working subliminally.
Another episode of the Shameless Picture Show podcast. My name is Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is one of the few men to traverse the Forbidden Zone. That is, until his breed made a desert of it ages ago.
Nick Richards.
I tripped myself up for a second there because I didn't write my own name, because if I don't write everyone's names, I forget them. And I wrote dessert. Yeah.
Nice.
But before we get to our...
That sounds delicious.
I'm sure it is. Before we get to our main topic, it's worth mentioning that we horror fans have lost another legend of the genre. On August 26th, we lost Tobe Hooper, best known for his film The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Tobe was a fascinating filmmaker with a very blue-collar, laid-back sensibility to his work, but wasn't afraid to make you scream. Often imitated but never replicated, Hooper was a political filmmaker to the bone and tried to find something to say in each of his films, but also wasn't afraid to have fun and lampoon his own work. Nick, what do you have any favorites of our man Tobe?
After his passing, I kind of looked over his filmography a bit, and I have not seen a whole lot of it. The two that really stand obviously Texas Chainsaw Massacre stands out. I also, you know what? I'm going to pull up his filmography because I have some doubts as to the accuracy of the list I pulled up in the first place. I looked up one of them to confirm, and it was not correct.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Go to IMDb.
Yeah, that's what I'm pulling up now.
It's fun. It's funny. He worked with Steven Spielberg, and he looks kind of like Steven Spielberg in his IMDb picture. It's really strange.
So wow, he that dude kept on working. Yeah. So of course Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's one that I saw either just at the end of high school or just in the beginning of college, that haunted me in a way that most horror films don't. Most horror films you can separate yourself from them, where Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so... It preyed on all of the same fears that were going on in that era of this fear of other people either kidnapping you or getting mixed up in the wrong crowd. There wasn't a lot of magic to it. There wasn't a lot of supernatural essence to it. It was just scary in a way that there is precedent for in our culture.
No, exactly. Like he was going for this sense of gritty realism, and I like the fact that he shot it very much in a a documentary style in a way of light handheld cameras. It's cinema verite style if I want to bring up my pretentious film school roots. No, and that's what I was saying about how he's often imitated is, people got such a guttural reaction from Texas Chainsaw Massacre that there's been filmmakers who have strived their lives trying to create something that makes someone else feel the way they felt about that film. And I don't know how true this story is. I have not checked my facts on this one. This is just the story I always heard, and but it's one that I like, is that Tobe Hooper never considered that film to be a horror film. He thought it was a comedy. And like I said, don't quote me on any of this story I've heard.
Right.
Is that he also thought he tried to get a G rating for that film.
Had he taken a severe blow to the head recently?
His point was there's no blood in the film.
Yeah.
It's all of the mind. Like, I don't know if that's true if he actually viewed it as a comedy, but it's like, my point is that there's filmmakers out there trying to replicate the feeling of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he wasn't even trying to make something intense and guttural. He thought it was a comedy. No one got it. So when he got a chance to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, he just ran with it and made a straight-up weird comedy. And it's one of the reasons I love that film so much. Both of them.
Yeah. And then to contrast against that, the other one that has impacted me that I've seen of his is Poltergeist, which had a very different tone to it. It's in terms of that gritty realism, like Poltergeist is the antithesis of that. That one is very supernatural, very traditional of the horror films that I grew up on.
Well, there is a reason for that, why it's so different. It's because, and this is no longer a secret, Tobe Hooper didn't direct that film.
What?
No, Steven Spielberg directed that film. Tobe Hooper had his input. Hold on, I'm trying to find the name of the... hold on, this is all just going to be dead air for a second because I'm trying to find... the name of the interview that I listened to that confirmed this.
This dead air is brought to you by Milligan's Air.
I'm just going to cut all this out because I feel like a name will be important to this. Hold on.
Do you like breathing? We all do. But when I breathe the best air. Milligan's quality air.
John Leonetti, who his brother... was his brother Matthew Leonetti was the director of photography on this. John was the focus puller and cameraman on Poltergeist, and so he was by the camera at all times. And he said that Steven Spielberg directed the majority of this picture, not because he was trying to push Tobe Hooper out. He brought Tobe Hooper onto this film, pretty much him knowing that, hey, there's a potential director's strike coming up. And if that were to happen, I can't direct this film, and anyone who's directing this film has to be taken off of it. Tobe Hooper was not a member of the Directors Guild, so he brought him on and said, I'm bringing you on for this reason, but that's not to say he didn't have his input. He had ideas, he brought things to the table, but the large part of that film's vibe and tone came from Spielberg.
Huh, that's interesting. So there you go. So I guess then Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the only one that impacted me.
I'm glad I found out that because there's always been the talk. It's people always said because it's the directing credit always says Tobe Hooper, uncredited Steven Spielberg, and people always take it as that there must have been fights on set or something. No, Tobe Hooper came onto that set knowing that he was, I don't want to say a patsy, but he was there for name.
It was a safety net.
And the cameraman said there's a picture that he loves that he said that he wants to post online at some point of his brother behind the camera. Oh no, his brother talking to a grip, setting up lights. He's right next to the camera, getting the focus right. Steven Spielberg is talking to the actors, and Tobe Hooper is sitting on a crate right next to the camera, talking to the effects guys, and it's like he's like, that is the perfect explanation of how this movie went down.
Sure. Huh.
So,
wow.
I also recommend, if you're going to see any more of his films, Nick, Texas Chainsaw 2, because I think it's fantastic. And here's another one where it's like he's making a horror film, but I feel like he's trying to make a comedy again. Eaten Alive. It's a killer crocodile movie.
Yeah. I know the box art from the old Blockbuster days.
I also found out for the first time through IMDb that he directed the Billy Idol music video "Dancing with Myself." That's what IMDb says. Like, take it for a grain of salt, but that's amazing. But no, anyways, Tobe Hooper, he's I don't want to say misunderstood because that makes it sound like he didn't have his appreciators, but he's one of the horror icons that I feel like kind of got a bad rap because of some inconsistencies in his catalog. But I feel like now it's a good time. It's ripe for rediscovery. And I haven't even seen the movie, but I want to see Spontaneous Combustion because that title has me hooked. So that's Tobe Hooper. So Nick, if you add anything to your shame list, have it be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
I will add it promptly.
Hey guys, quick break. Before we get to our main topic, I thought it'd be great to hear from some of the listeners and some friends of mine about the influence that Tobe Hooper's had on them. So, I reached out to a couple people and had them record a little something about the legend that is Tobe Hooper. A little bit later on the show, you'll hear something similar about Planet of the Apes from a couple people. But since we're not doing an official episode on one of Hooper's films, I thought this would be a great way to give him the respect I feel like he deserves. First up is a buddy of mine named Wes Allen. I am introducing him because he forgot to do so in his own recording. I know Wes is one of my wrestle buddies. I met him at a convention. He is in a way responsible for our sponsorship with Vinegar Syndrome, and he's a really great dude, and we share common interest in exploitation films and professional wrestling. So here's Wes, and then after that we have Ron Pertee, and then we have a double one with Kate Balsley and Gregory Bishop. Thanks for listening, guys.
So you'll have to excuse me because I'm driving down the turnpike, so it might be a little noisy. But I wanted to take a moment to talk about Tobe Hooper. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that Tobe Hooper is the artist responsible for the piece of art that has had the single greatest impact on my life, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is represented in almost every single room in my house, short of my daughter's room and probably the kitchen. There's at least one Leatherface thing in every room of the house. I still consider Texas Chainsaw Massacre the greatest genre film ever made, and I count it as one of the best movies ever made. If for no other reason, for the fact that, like, from its release onward, it has influenced countless filmmakers, waves of genre film that have come out. It's influenced actors, it's influenced musicians, it's influenced the way that horror movies are made. It influenced the aesthetic that would become a blueprint, what we would consider scary. And that is all due to Tobe Hooper's vision and how he sees things as a filmmaker, or how he saw things as a filmmaker, rather. Additionally, I think a lot of times, because Texas is such a monolith of a film, what often gets overlooked are the weird moments in Tobe Hooper's film career that represent his dark sense of humor. I know Evil Dead 2, for an example, gets a lot of the credit for having that slapsticky horror comedy feel. But in all reality, if you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, you get a real sense of what Tobe Hooper finds funny, because there's a lot of ridiculous shit going on in there. Be it Dennis Hopper's portrayal of his character, which is an absolutely fucking nut bar performance, and then Bill Moseley's infamous turn as Chop Top. And let's not forget movies like Life Force, which is, it's not a good movie, but it's definitely an absurd movie. And like Steve Railsback, I think that's his name, his performance is so strange in it. Eaten Alive, a movie that often gets overlooked in his film catalog. Tobe Hooper had a really weird sense of humor, and found these weird, gory, grimy elements entertaining and funny. And it comes across, and I think in most instances, his movies make people uncomfortable. They scare people, but there's a lot of fun to be had in watching his career unfold. We're at a point. We're at a crossroads as genre film fans, because a lot of these gods of the genre are passing on. Wes Craven, and then two directors who. My three favorite films of all time are The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill, and Night of the Living Dead. We lost Tobe Hooper and George A. Romero in 1 year. Those are giant holes that people will inevitably step up to fill. People will step into those places and make a movie that blows all of us away, that changes how the genre functions, how horror movies are made. But make no mistake, that person was most certainly influenced, whoever they may be, whenever they show up, by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Night of the Living Dead. So Tobe Hooper, someone may step up into that position, but nobody will replace the movies that he put into the world, particularly Texas. Same goes for George Romero with Night of the Living Dead. It's certainly a sad time when you lose these guys, these icons, and it's safe to use that word when you're talking about people that made some of the most important movies that horror will ever have to claim. But we know that the art they left behind is, as cliche as it sounds, it lasts a million lifetimes. So I am a proud fan and lover of Tobe Hooper's work. I've got an entire tattoo sleeve of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's with me forever. And not just etched into my skin, but also etched into my heart. He will be missed, but what he left behind is bigger than him and bigger than all of us, and for that we should all be very thankful. So thank you for what you did, Tobe Hooper. Thank you for what you left us, and may all of us involved in movies continue to attempt making you proud.
Hi, my name is Ron Pertee. I'm a filmmaker, and I also host the Ron Pertee Show over at greetingsfromron.com or wherever you steal your finer podcasts. Tobe Hooper, while he didn't make as many films as I love as George Romero or even a Wes Craven, if it wasn't for Tobe Hooper, I wouldn't be into horror as it is now. I was 7 years old, and I was at my father's house, and he was asleep in a chair. And there was a VHS tape in the machine, and it was partially ejected. You know how people, us old folk, used to just leave them kind of stick out there because we'll pick it up where we left off. And there was no label on it. It was kind of worn away. And I pushed the tape in, and if this had been anything other than what it was, this conversation would be way way different, but it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And my father had stopped watching it at the sequence where Leatherface puts the woman on the hook. Now, at 7 years old, I see Leatherface putting a woman on a hook. And most 7-year-olds, and I can attest to this, would freak out and scream and be like, have a field day. Like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? I watched it with amusement. I loved it when I was watching. I was mesmerized. I was kind of in a trance almost. And I wanted to see more. But unfortunately for me, he woke up and I got yelled at, and it was years before I saw the final bit of the movie as a whole. And while George proved to me that I could make movies, Tobe's the one that introduced me to the genre, and he will, in my eyes, and I'm sure many, many others, be a great loss on the industry. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gregory Bishop. I'm a programmer with the Atlanta Film Festival.
I'm Kate Balsley, and I'm an assistant professor of film at Georgia Gwinnett College here in Atlanta.
Today we're going to talk about the late and great Tobe Hooper.
Rest in peace, Tobe.
Yes, rest in peace. It's a real bummer to see him go.
Yeah, he was. He contributed so much to the horror genre. I mean, I think he was. You can correct me if you disagree, but he did as much for horror as George Romero did, as far as the slasher subgenre of horror, especially with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and who can forget Poltergeist? I mean, I know that Poltergeist is kind of a lot of people have had conversations about it. Some people have even gone so far as to claim that Steven Spielberg directed Poltergeist, but I'd like to disagree with that. I think that's all Tobe Hooper, just with more money.
Okay. I like that. Tobe Hooper with just more money. Yeah, I love Tobe Hooper's work. He's incredible. I was scarred as a child, first by Poltergeist. My dad had a really weird way of introducing us to horror films. He really shouldn't have been introducing us, and would often like get really giddy and excited when one was on the television, and he'd like coax us all in the room when it was definitely not an appropriate film. But he meant it very well, so it was very sweet. So we'd like be scarred because we're watching this movie that if my mother were in the room, she'd probably throw the hammer down and shield us. But I'm happy he did because it opened me up to a lot of really fascinating work, unrestricted early on. So I got a jump start, if you will. I remember very vividly watching Poltergeist in the scene where the guy goes to the bathroom and starts peeling his face off. It was just so
Nightmare
upsetting.
Fuel. It's nightmare fuel.
But it's such an incredible film. Such a beautiful, creative, honestly, relic. Because I mean, these days, I don't feel like horror films are being treated with the same kind of gravitas as they are.
It was genuinely creepy. It was a genuinely scary film. And I first saw Poltergeist when I was 9 or 10. And I was always a big cinephile. I was always into movies ever since I was a little girl. My dad bought me a great big book on horror films for my 3rd grade Christmas present. And my mom was real mad, but I just remember being fascinated by these images and descriptions of the films, and I asked my dad what masturbating with a crucifix meant, and he took the book away from me, but he gave it back to me a few days later. I think he was just trying to humor my mom. I was reading about The Exorcist, and so I remember I had this VHS tape of Poltergeist that I watched, and I watched that shit over and over and over, and I was just obsessed with that film. And this is like 1990. All the other little girls my age were obsessed with The New Kids on the Block, but I couldn't give a fuck about Donnie Wahlberg or all their songs that they sang.
Kate has really put in a vendetta against the Wahlbergs in these recordings.
Yeah, but I was into Poltergeist, and I was into Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg, and I would watch that VHS over and over again, and why this angle and not that angle, and how did they produce this special effect, and why did they choose this actor over that actor, and I was just fascinated by the not just the premise of the film, but of course I was wondering about the creation of the film. And I think the reason why Poltergeist hit such a nerve, and I do feel like the special effects were great, considering it's 1982.
Oh, what a golden era of
Yeah,
that.
1982. I showed it to one of my millennial friends about 10 years ago, and before the term millennial was even coined. And he was like, "God, it's so cheesy," and I'm like, "You're wrong. But
You're wrong.
I think the reason why this film struck a nerve was because it was so close to home, and it's not just a haunted house movie. There's a lot of stuff beneath the surface, buried. Pardon the pun if you've seen the film, but I remember being struck by how they lived in the Freeling family lived in this neighborhood where all the houses looked the same. It was a housing development. For the most part, it was all white people. They were all comfortably middle class. They all lived in this suburb where there was uniformity. Everything looked the same. But they had this dark, disturbing secret. Like the family doesn't come out right away and share that they're being haunted by malevolent spirits. They keep it to themselves mostly. And, the film could be seen as, what lies beneath the suburban surface? What lies beneath the American dream? And of course the film is also, very explicitly about corporate greed. It's about a family. Of course there's a very strong family message in the film because Spielberg produced it. Which is kind of interesting because a lot of people say that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was about the dissolution of the American nuclear family, but Poltergeist affirms the strength of the American nuclear family. But as far as the subtext goes, it was about secrets. It was about what you present to the world. It was about it was the dark side to middle class suburban life and the American dream. And of course corporate greed, which I believe I've already mentioned. But that's why I feel like the film was impactful. And also, it's different from your standard horror haunted house film because if you take a look at the lighting, the mise-en-scène, the cinematographer, so much of Poltergeist takes place in brightly lit rooms. The scariest scene, the chair scene in the kitchen. All the lights are on. It doesn't look like anything bad can happen. It doesn't look like anything else could exist there. Of course, the famous tree scene is definitely creepy. But most of the film takes place in a comfortable suburban house. With the exception of that awful swimming pool sequence, and there's that great rumor where they used actual skeletons. I don't think that's true, but
That's a rumor?
I think it's a rumor that they used real skeletons. I don't think they would do that in a film, or maybe they did. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they sell real skeletons.
They could have used real skeletons
stores,
if I'm
I suppose
wrong.
it's possible.
But I heard that they did use real skeletons, and it freaked out Joe Beth Williams. But all this shit's circulating on the internet. You don't know what's true anymore.
Mm-hmm. It certainly makes a good story.
Yeah.
A great IMDb trivia point.
Right, yeah, and the family, the family is normal seeming. The actors all did a terrific job. They had real kids instead of adorable moppets. And the fact that it's a comfortable, white, suburban, middle class, well-off family, with 3 kids and mom and dad and a backyard with a swimming pool and a Labrador Retriever. The film is about normalcy. What is normal? What lies beneath normal? It's smart, right? So it's interesting to compare Texas Chainsaw with Poltergeist because they're both directed by Mr. Hooper and they both share themes that are similar, but they're inverses of each. Take it away, Greg.
I kind of want to segue into talking more about, but thanks. But segue into talking a bit more about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Words don't quite for me describe the film. Raw.
It's
yeah.
raw.
It's raw, but there's something about it's like a film that manifested in itself by being dragged by the celluloid being dragged in behind a dirty van down a kind of a desolate highway. It's just this grimy, unheard of at the time, a feeling. is such an incredible sense of cynicism and hopelessness.
Did they film it in Super 16 or Super 8 or?
I think it was probably
16?
more like, I don't know, but I would deduce likely Super 16.
Well,
I mean, it clearly had no money.
Yeah, it was definitely low budget.
And it used that to its advantage.
Oh yeah.
In a way that it's actually quite obnoxiously done today.
Yeah, but no.
But
like
really
I
worked for this film.
I saw a remake of this film in New York in like 2003, and it was just so tame and so sanitized, compared to the original, and I think the original struck a nerve was because it was so raw and so real. I'm asking, was it shot on Super 16? Because it looked like it was. It looked like home movie footage. Once again, excellent casting. The teenagers were real. The setting was real. The family, the creepy family. I mean, like they, you don't like thinking about about it, but they could be out there somewhere. It was like this, and it was also based on a real serial killer, Ed Gein, from our very own home state of Wisconsin. So, once again, the 70s also, a very cynical age. A lot of the films their subtext could be interpreted as the breakdown of society, the breakdown of values, the breakdown of the family. And a lot of people read the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as the breakdown of the nuclear family, because you clearly see this very dysfunctional family, right? They're psychopaths, they're serial killers, and they're okay with it. Of course, what's the girl's name in Texas Chainsaw? Sally. Sally's not okay with it, obviously, but you see this destruction of youth. Brothers and sisters get ripped apart from each other. Lovers are ripped apart from each other. You see this perverted look at a nuclear family, and all these attacks on what we've held to be dear and true and normal. Ideology is being broken down, and this film reflected that. But yeah, it was the rawness. It looked. The girl is hysterical throughout the entire film, and she really looks scared. And I showed this to a group of students when I taught a horror film class, and they felt that she was just shrieking throughout the entire film, but I mean, wouldn't you do that if you were in her situation? I also watched a DVD with Mr. Hooper's commentary on it, and he was laughing about the interpretation of, the breakdown of the American family, but, it's whether or not that's what he intended, it's what people interpreted. And, it is very, very, whether it was a deliberate attack or it was unconsciously put there or it was inadvertently read into the film, it was still a very bold film to make, and getting people to think about the function of the horror genre, especially as it pertains to American culture.
I kind of earlier we talked about the film, the big word raw, this film, but the gritty approach is something that I found so interesting because it reminds me of a lot of this it's like something you stumble on that you shouldn't have had. As something's like, it's not well groomed and sterile, and it's like a videotape that you just find at a thrift store.
You're not supposed to see.
You're not supposed to see it, and you're like, it's not meant for, and it's so uncomfortable in that regard.
Oh.
And I think in England they would ban films and they'd be deemed video nasties. I don't think it quite. I'm sure it actually. I mean, would probably fall under a film that would have been banned under that. But that's what the word I think of as video nasty. Mm-hmm. I think that's, even though it isn't video.
Oh, the opening sequence of this film. Mm-hmm. Ugh. It's just icky. You just want to take a shower after you see it. Mm-hmm. It's genuinely vile.
It looks like the film looks like it stinks.
It does.
Like all throughout.
Yeah.
Like even in the bits with the teenagers and the non.
You feel like the I get the same feeling watching this film as when I find old celluloid film at rummage sales and I get all this dirt and grime on my fingers when I scroll through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same feeling. It's a dirty film.
And it's especially
but not dirty in that way. Not dirty in that way. I'm not talking about.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But actually, on that, speaking on that, if I remember correctly, the film isn't, for its subject matter, it isn't particularly visually gory. It's not a very bloody film.
No.
I think Sally's brother, when he dies, it's almost it's if I recall, bloodless.
Yeah.
It's with the chainsaw, of course.
You feel
the
blood.
But it's done so in a way that you kind of pick the pieces to yourself.
Yeah.
That was word gore.
It's left up to the imagination.
Left of it, and it's far more effective that
Yeah.
way.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You
Like
don't-
kids being dragged in the back of
Oh,
the house,
God,
and the door
yeah.
slamming, and you're just like, oh.
When he gets hit in the head,
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, when one of the young men gets hit in the head by Leatherface with the big mallet, and he's once again, he's going someplace he shouldn't be going. He's investigating this old broken down house, and the door slides open, and Leatherface whacks him in the head, and you don't see blood squirting, you don't see heads caved in.
I'm sure you see a little bit, but
he falls and his leg is shaking because he's been badly damaged, and Leatherface drags him in and slams the door. You just get a physical, visceral response to this film, and even tiny creepy things like the collection of spiders on the ceiling. There's a zoom into that. You get the sense of decay. Not just decay of the environment, but of course decay of values, decay of ideologies. But yeah, my parents were folk art collectors, and when I was much younger, they took me visiting people, in the Deep South and the Appalachian Mountain region who would make art out of things like twigs or skulls or bones. And, watching this film, I think of outsider art and how, I'd have slumber parties and my friends would freak out and they'd want to go home because they were scared of the painted skulls and stuff like that. But yeah, it's outsider culture. It's also our fear of, our fear of the subculture, our fear of people who've been overlooked by society. The uneducated, the disenfranchised, people who are impoverished. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I just remember my friends freaking out over folk art. And then I think about how people are freaking out over this family. Because I actually found the bone statues in this film creepy but creative. And, but no, it's just representative of just an unbridled life, creativity, unbridled, unbridled society, I don't know. I'm totally talking on my ass here.
It's all good. On that humorous note, I actually want to talk about the sequel. Kate, you haven't seen Texas Chainsaw Part 2, right?
Not, no.
Okay. It's been a long time since I have.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, for those who the uninitiated, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 was directed by Tobe Hooper quite a bit time later, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a 70s film, Part 2 was a 80s film. But rather than repeating what he did in the first film, he took a gamble and just made a what is loosely a horror comedy, at least in my term. I akin it closer to Return of the Living Dead, a film that I'm very, 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 very fond of. Not only in its dark humor approach, but because the soundtrack is awesome and contemporary. And I remember, I think in the opening scene of Part 2, these two goofy 80s teenagers are trying to I think they're prank calling a radio station, and they're driving down this of course dark barren road, and then they start getting attacked, I think, by Leatherface.
Right.
And while this is going on, one of my favorite Oingo Boingo songs is playing. No One Lives Forever. It's such a good song, and it's so perfect for this scene because it's just batshit. So the film, though, if I recall. Personally, and I think collectively, I think the film wasn't as well received. I think people were expecting something a little more visceral, like Texas Chainsaw. But I cannot help but give the man kudos for doing that, frankly, because you could have gone the route that a lot of horror franchises go and just kind of repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse. And then they have 8 sequels later, and the series has just lost all the credibility it's built, with its first landmark hit.
It becomes a parody of itself.
Exactly, and I appreciated it very much in that regard because
how The Simpsons have become.
That's a whole other thing.
I think both Poltergeist and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if you had to find a unifying theme, it would be what lies beneath. What lies beneath.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Tobe Hooper was interested in exploring the darker recesses of ideology, of social structure. He'd probably laugh at me like he did on the DVD commentary, but sorry, I read it, dude.
It's all good. It's totally fine. I'm sure. I would hope. Unfortunately, we won't get a chance to ask him, but It'd be a great discussion to have.
I think we should watch Poltergeist tonight.
I think so too. I want to end this on a quick note. This isn't a Tobe Hooper film, but there was a later sequel. Later sequel. Forgive me. A later sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, and it came out I think in the 90s, and it had to have been like. Probably not, but it had to have been like Matthew McConaughey's second role, like or something. And it's way more in the vein of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. It's not directed by Tobe, but it's bananas. If you can find it for $1 at your local thrift store, I recommend getting it, getting a view of it. Long story short, Matthew McConaughey is like I think a member of the crazy family. Or at least related, but he's got a robotic leg for some reason, a reason I can't remember.
Right.
But it's absolutely.
Well, I guess one
bizarre.
criticism I'd have of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I mean, like, this is not just the film. I mean, this is a lot of Hollywood movies, including like stuff like Winter's Bone, which I thought was a fine film, but it reinforced this idea that rural America is full of inbred, backwards, maniac, illiterate, incestual. And that's not true. That's not true at all. And that's a very bad stereotype that's been perpetuated by Hollywood. So there.
So one thing I would like to end this on is if you're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, you can actually see Texas Chainsaw Massacre in theaters at the Avalon on I think September 14th. Check it out. If you have an opportunity to see this film in a proper setting, I absolutely recommend it. It'll change your life. Adding to that, the Milwaukee Film Festival, which starts on September 28th, will also be playing Poltergeist. That plays on the 29th. So you should definitely check both of those out. This doesn't happen very often. And I can guarantee you it'll exponentially change the experience for you.
On to the main topic of today's episode. We will be discussing the classic 60s sci-fi epic Planet of the Apes. I don't know why I stressed it that way. I just felt like it made it more dramatic.
Apes.
Planet of the Apes, based on the book by Pierre Bol, was written by Rod Serling and Michael Wilson, directed by Franklin F. Schaffner. The film tells the story of Taylor and his group of exploratory astronauts that fall victim to a terrible crash as their spacecraft comes pummeling down into the water of an unknown planet in an unknown solar system. While trying to get the lay of the land and figure out where they are, Taylor and company eventually discover a group of primitive mute humans. But things get crazy in a hurry because before these astronauts can get comfortable, they're hunted on horseback by apes. Taylor discovers he's landed on a planet ruled and overrun by simian creatures. The film would go on to spawn countless sequels, 2 television shows, and more merchandising than one could ever want. It's gone on to be considered one of the greatest science fiction films ever made and still has legions of fans today, especially after the high-budget prequel films Dawn, Rise, and War for the Planet of the Apes. The original film stars Charlton Heston, Roddy McDowall, Kim Hunter, Maurice Evans, and Linda Harrison.
Can't help thinking that somewhere in the universe there has to be something better than man. Has to be.
The words are Charlton Heston's.
Get out a last signal to Earth that we've landed!
The world he finds out in the galaxy will challenge every idea you've ever had of civilization. A planet where man is the lowest order of living things, and the superior beings are apes. They build the cities, make the laws, the gods, and control the guns that hunt a race of lowly, terrified humans who run wild in the jungles, are caged in the prisons, and stuffed in the museums. 20th Century Fox transforms the motion picture screen into Planet of the Apes. Pierre Boulle's finest novel since Bridge on the River Kwai.
The world gone insane. An upside-down civilization that could not be real. Yes, a world of madness and terror.
Man has no understanding.
He can be taught a few simple tricks, nothing more. You did it. You cut up his brain, you bloody baboon! It's a murder! It's a murder! A murder! But it did not end here. It ended in an episode so unpredictable, so shocking, it made the horror which preceded it seem calm and gentle as a summer's night. A great many people worked long and hard to answer the question of what a civilization would be like where the evolutionary process had been reversed and apes were the superior species. Hundreds of technicians and the largest number of makeup artists ever assembled assisted the producers, the writers, the director, and the cast. Dr. Cornelius, Roddy McDowell. Dr. Zira is played by Kim Hunter. Dr. Zayas is portrayed by Maurice Evans. And Nova by Linda Harrison.
Now the tribunal has placed you in my custody for final disposition. You realize what that means?
No.
Emasculation to begin with. Then experimental surgery on the speech centers, on the brain. Eventually a kind of living death.
Planet of the Apes, beyond your wildest dreams.
So, Nick, this one's on your shame list this week.
Yes, it was, and I'm sorry, I'm doing a bit of frantic Googling right now. You said this was written in part by Rod Serling? I did not know that.
The original draft was written by Rod Serling. He came up with that iconic ending. The budget was too high with his version, so they actually got Michael Wilson, who was a blacklisted Hollywood screenwriter, to come in and finish it up.
What I find particularly interesting about that is during the entire first half of the film.
That too. That was kind of...
The first half of the film, I'm like, this is a very specific episode of The Twilight Zone. I shot an arrow into the air. It's a riff on a poem, I believe, and it landed I know not where. About
my eye!
A crew that goes off. It found its mark. A crew that launches off into space, has some technical difficulties. They find a planet to crash land onto, and they're trying to survive on the deserts of this planet. That at the very end, after they've all betrayed each other and there's only one left, they realize that they've been on Earth the entire time.
When was that episode? What was it called?
I shot an arrow into the air, I believe is the title.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Okay. Air date was January 15th, 1960.
Interesting, because this movie predates that. Or, I mean, is after that. So that episode predates this. This was 68.
Right.
It's interesting, because, like, this... Well, we don't have to worry about spoilers, because anyone who's listening to this before they see the movie is the problem. In Pierre Boulle's original book, though, the big twist that they've been on Earth this entire time was not in the book. It was actually its own overrun planet. And Rod Serling, now knowing that he's recycling his own scripts, came up with that stinger at the end.
Yeah, when you mentioned that name in the intro, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense now.
Where do ideas come from?
Where do they come from, do I say? Ideas come from the earth. They come from every human experience that you either witness or have heard about, translated into your brain in your own sense of dialogue, in your own language form. Ideas are born from what is smelled, heard, seen, experienced, felt, emotionalized. Ideas are probably in the air, like little tiny items of ozone. That's the easiest thing on earth, is to come up with an idea. And the second thing is, the hardest thing on earth is to put it down. Who was it that said writing is the easiest thing on earth? He said, I simply walk into my study, I sit down, I put the paper in the typewriter, and I fix the margins, and then I turn the paper up, and I bleed.
Yeah, he wrote his original version, and like his version of Planet of the Apes was very technologically advanced, and everything, and they just thought like, because no one knew this film was gonna work, no one figured it was gonna work, so like they thought the budget was too high, and I think the producer, trying to figure out which one it was, Arthur P. Jacobs, he was trying to get money from Zanuck. I think it was, I don't know if it was Richard. Yeah, it's Richard Zanuck. And he pretty much told him, it's like, if you can get this down to like $2 million, I'll give you the money. You just need to lower that budget. So they brought in Michael Wilson, who's got a very sad story as a writer. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but let's talk about your feelings before we get into the story of how this film came to be, and just like start picking it apart.
Sure. So overall, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to be a diehard, like it didn't change my film world by any means, though I think a certain amount of that, I don't know how much, is the fact that I've seen so many parodies of it that you know the story, you know the ending, like to the point where I didn't even realize until halfway through that I wasn't supposed to realize that they were on Earth the entire time.
Yeah.
So that probably took something away from it.
I agree.
Charlton Heston's acting style worked a lot better once he was in with the apes. Like that overly dramatic style, like really rubbed me the wrong way when he was surrounded by other humans trying to survive out in the desert. While everybody else was trying to, like, just be normal. And he's like, oh, as he chomps on a cigar, this planet is, why did you sign up for this trip then? And, once it was with the apes, that made sense. Like, it worked. But before that, it really didn't for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I found all that to be really amusing, too. And I also was surprised, like, it's Heston's style. You just kind of get used to it. But I was surprised about how good of an actor he was when he wasn't speaking. Like, no. Like, what I'm trying to...
You have a face for radio.
It's like he did a good job of communicating his thoughts through his face and his actions. More so than... Because, like, Heston, when you hire Charlton Heston, you want the voice, you want the bravado. And it's like
Now, don't say anything for a third.
I don't know. I thought it was like, wow, he's better silent than I would have given him credit for.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that kind of more stage style of acting benefited him because he was able to emote more without words.
Yeah. I'm also amused, too, real quick talking about Charlton Heston, because like I always thought this movie and the Omega Man have a really strange, like, liberal bent to it. Where like my favorite line in this movie is at the end, where he's like, "Don't trust anyone over 30," and he's like, "Wave those flags of discontent," and he's like, talking about like just stick it to the man, and then like I had to look, it's like because I know the Charlton Heston I know is like the Republican conservative leader who's created the NRA,
right?
And I was like, that doesn't seem like, because Omega Man, he was like, he's sitting in a theater watching Woodstock and goes, it was a different time then. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And I looked it up. He was a Democratic civil rights guy in the 60s, but later became a Republican. I was like, okay, that makes more sense. But
our theory, I watched it with some friends, and so our theory watching it is that this movie made him realize that the government was trying to take his guns, and he was no longer able to protect himself from the upcoming Ape Rebellion. And so that is why he had a stroke early on at some point, and he's like, wait a minute, the apes are coming. You people don't know. I was there. I saw it. We need our guns.
I also love that, like, he's like, don't trust anyone over 30. And it's like, you're what, like 40 something? Like,
right.
How old are you, Charlton Heston? Like,
maybe that's why he knows that they shouldn't be trusted.
yeah. Like, let's do some quick math. I'm curious how old he was. I'm gonna do some quick math, because now I'm curious by this.
This dead air is brought to you by Shenanigans Air. Don't trust Milligans Air. Their air sucks.
He was 45 when he made this movie. He was born in 1923.
We all know that men can play characters like as young as 8.
Since now we're just talking about Charlton Heston and everything that became just him. I also love that, like, near the end of the movie, he wouldn't go anywhere without Nova. And he's like, if she's the only half decent looking woman on this planet, she's mine.
Yeah, I had a real, as being as much of a feminist as I can as a dude, I really try. I had a real problem with that entire Nova story.
I had a problem that the only woman that could speak that wasn't an ape died before she even had a line.
Yeah, totally. And died from, like, extreme old age instantly.
Well,
look at how shriveled up she is. No man will want her.
She did die because, they're traveling through time.
Yeah, which also has been done in Twilight Zone episodes. There's the Rip Van Winkle caper, where they all seal themselves into these, like, body preservation things in a cave, and one of them, their pod gets ruptured during that time, and most of them wake up, but one of them doesn't, and now it's looking more and more like Rod Serling just shuffled all of his episodes together and said, here's your script.
Rod Serling, we need you to write this script. No problem. He's sitting there, I don't know what I'm doing.
And first
I imagine he just dropped it. He had a bunch of scripts in his hand, and he dropped them all. I was like, oh no.
Shuffled them together. Just throw some monkeys in it. There you go. Well, there's also the episode of The Twilight Zone where it's just like us, or it's just like Earth, where there's a group of astronauts going out to explore. One of them is very nervous, so one of them says to the nervous guy, like, I have this theory where we're all made by God, whether it's us or aliens, so they all must be like us. Wherever we go, we're going to be able to relate to them on a basic level. So they end up getting there. The nervous guy is the only one that survives. And the aliens that they meet seem really nice, and they put him up in this nice house that is tailored to his needs as an Earthling. And then he realizes that he's actually in a zoo. He's trapped as an Earthling in a zoo, and he shouts out he was right, they're just like us. They find something unique, they stick it in a cage so that everybody can come look at it. But that, again, like, is echoed in what happens to Charlton Heston's character when they find him and throw him in a box to study and, whatever.
This segment of the Twilight Zone Hour was brought to you by Milligan's Air.
Milligan's Air sucks. This is JP shenanigans.
No, it's actually crazy. I've seen a lot of... I'm currently working through my goal of rewatching through all of the Twilight Zone, because it's all on Netflix and Hulu currently. But I know I've seen a good majority of the episodes, but I'm remembering that I hadn't remembered a whole lot of them. And it's kind of interesting how much he's pulling from himself. And the only thing I could think of is it's like there's themes that he really wanted to get out. And, thought,
sure.
Well, while The Twilight Zone was one of the most popular TV shows of all time, he thought, well, here's my chance to get more, say what I'm trying to say on a bigger scale.
Right. I also know that Rod Serling had a real problem with commercials and commercial breaks. There's a great quote from him, and I'm not going to be able to say it verbatim, which is a shame, but... it's hard to tell a compelling story when you have to break every 7 minutes for cartoon bunnies to sell toilet paper or something like that.
Well, be great. Would be fantastic. if 'cause I haven't read the two scripts, if Rod Serling's script was completely different, and then Michael Wilson came in and just I like Twilight Zone and started.
Rod, you left out all of your best stuff.
Don't worry, I got it. Going back to our love affair with Rod Serling real quick, one thing I thought was kind of great about him is he really took his story seriously, and whenever he would write something and he had to go in and pitch it to the office or whatnot, he would sit down and read every character and do a very dramatic, realistic reading of how he wanted the script to come out. And I love that his dedication to it. And well, obviously you can feel Rod Serling's influence to this on this film.
Hey guys, it's Michael again, interrupting the show. Hopefully you've been enjoying Nick's factoids about the Twilight Zone. Before we get back to that, we got a couple more interviews that we've had people submit, this time about their feelings about Planet of the Apes. First, we'll have a gentleman by the name of Kevin Waterman, then back to our good friend Ron Pertee, and then back to Gregory Bishop and Kate Balsley to wrap it all up. After that, we'll be getting back to the show, and no more interruptions from me. Thanks for listening, guys.
Hi, this is Kevin Waterman. Nick had asked me to go and record some of my thoughts and feelings on Planet of the Apes, so here goes. Planet of the Apes is easily among my favorite movies. There's a lot of reasons for that. One element is certainly stylistic choices. I really enjoy the rather harsh, discordant music, score that they use in the film. I also, especially paired with the sudden, rapid, tighten-in zooms that they do periodically throughout the film. I like how it gives it that very slightly unsettling, discordant feel that comes out of that. I'm also a big fan structurally of how it is set up, that it keeps building along. Each time, every so often you keep getting more revelations about it. Obviously, it's probably nearly impossible at this point to go and see Planet of the Apes without knowing the big twist at the end. But if you didn't know it, I think it's structured really well so that they've crashed on a planet and then discover there's people like them, except they seem to be mute savages. And then the big twist that there's apes and they are civilized, or at least intelligent and have something of a civilization. And then you discover that not only that, it's a theocracy, and then that the theocracy is keeping hidden the fact that this isn't how things always were, and that man was once much more intelligent than he was. And then obviously the big final twist reveal at the end that it wasn't another planet at all. It was Earth all along. I think it's very well structured. It keeps enough to keep you... it's always a bit of a surprise, the new thing that comes along, or at least it is the first time. I think it's nice that it works really well when you already know the ending, that it gives the contrast between his... Taylor's self-assurance about everything, when in fact, that how wrong some of his key assumptions about the world that he has found himself on are. Another element that I really enjoy about the movie, as someone who is a big fan of comprehensive world building, is that there's lots of small, almost throwaway elements that just give lots of, to my mind, very interesting questions to think about. For example, one is why is it that man is still around but has devolved so thoroughly that has no longer has speech, even though it retains all the physical capacity for it? Why is it that the apes have retained English as their language, other than it's convenient for the story? A particular one that strikes me is that why is it that apparently there are no birds or insects or anything else that flies left on Earth, since the apes absolutely believe it is a complete and total impossibility for flight to exist? Which also begs the question of why they even have retained the word for flight if there is nothing that flies. What exactly is the path of their technological evolution that they retain gunpowder and know about brain surgery? Fairly advanced brain surgery, or at least enough to lobotomize someone and remove any trace of their ability to speak or anything else. But other element, and other elements are substantially farther behind, that they still use horses and don't appear to have anything more advanced than horse-drawn carts for vehicles, for example. The other thing that I think is really interesting about it is that I think it gives, especially when taken as a piece with other Heston movies of the period, like Soylent Green and The Omega Man, offer very interesting window into what the big concerns and fears of the day were. That especially Soylent Green is a little bit better an example of that, probably, especially since it seemed the fear that we are on the verge of imminent overpopulation, mass famine, etc. is clearly proven to be a bit overblown, but especially, as I said, altogether, they give an interesting viewpoint into that and how things have shifted, which is what I think is, in general, one of the great virtues of science fiction, particularly as a genre, is that it allows a lot of exploration of ideas like that, even if they, that prove to be of varying degrees of validity. And I think that about wraps up my thoughts on Planet of the Apes. Actually, no. One other reason that I do love Planet of the Apes is that my first exposure to it was not actually Planet of the Apes. It was the very end of Spaceballs, which is a movie I also have always loved and adored. So, thanks again for the opportunity to give my thoughts on that. Bye.
My name is Ron Pertee. I'm a filmmaker, and I also host the Ron Pertee Show at greetingsfromron.com or wherever you steal your finer podcasts from. Planet of the Apes, there's so much stuff you can say about it, but I'm going to try and condense myself to just a couple of minutes. It's not only an innovative film when it comes to the makeup, but also the story. This was the first time I know of where they really kind of drove home the whole man's inhumanity to man is going to end humanity type of thing, with that ending that Rod Serling did being just masterful. I went into the film not knowing the ending, like a lot of people my age were probably spoiled with the ending, and I didn't have that happen for me when I went in, and I got to see it firsthand as a youngster, and it really blew my mind what I was looking at. It immediately made me a fan of the entire series, and I went through and I started watching all of the films, and even the remakes, prequels, I don't know which one to call them, but the new ones are fantastic as well. But just Planet of the Apes in general, the first film, will always resonate with me. And the more I watch it as I get older and the more films I make, you can notice little things like, I would have done this differently, but ultimately, Planet of the Apes is in my top 10 of all time. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I want to thank you all for listening to me ramble.
Hello, my name is Gregory Bishop. I'm a programmer and content manager for the Atlanta Film Festival.
And I'm Kate Balsley. I'm a professor of film at Georgia Gwinnett College here in Atlanta. And today we're going to be talking about the original 1968 classic Planet of the Apes.
It's a good one.
Yeah, we are humoring Mr. Michael Viers for his fabulous podcast. Let's see. I think to start with Planet of the Apes. It's been a few years since I've seen it.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute for me as well. Though it certainly hasn't been lost on me.
No, I think I remember seeing Planet of the Apes pretty late into my adulthood and finding it to be still pretty disturbing. I mean, it was undoubtedly hokey, because they had like the cheesy 1968 effects and of course, Charlton Heston. But like the premise of the film, the basic theme of the film is disturbing. And the film, it was a dystopian post-apocalyptic thriller. Still, for me, it's still resonant. It's still resonant about man's destructive or humankind's destructive capabilities and what the future of the planet may be. But I just felt like it was a very intelligent parable beneath the cheesy ape makeup, which I guess for the time was pretty ahead of its time.
Yeah, I'd say. Now, to be honest, my first introduction to the Planet of the Apes was back when I was living in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. I would see on the I can't remember what the local television station is, like not CW, but but whatever they call it, I can't. It's lost on me. But they would do reruns of The Simpsons, and my first real kind of reference to it was they would do clip show of the episode where I guess they go see Planet of the Apes on stage. It's like a musical. The whole Dr. Zaius thing.
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, the film has been so referenced so much in popular culture. You know, it's a landmark. And, you know, that very last iconic image, you know, when he sees, you know, of course, I'm going to spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it, but the Statue of Liberty half buried in the beach. You know, meaning that the Earth has been bombed beyond recognition, and the true monsters of the film weren't the apes, but the human beings, you know, who had destroyed the planet and left it in the hands of the anthropomorphic ape people. And so it's chilling, you know. Any kind of image where you see landmarks of civilization as we know it destroyed or in ruins is frightening, because I think we like to think that our civilization ourselves are indestructible and immortal, but we're not. And we're actually very fragile. And, you know, we don't see the extent of our behaviors, the extent of our impact, not just on the surrounding environment, but on ourselves and our own civilization. And to be reminded of that, you know, in such a very brutal way, you know, was very impactful. And I think it sort of cemented this film's place, not just in popular culture, you know, but also in the imaginations as far as science fiction, as far as visions of the apocalypse, as far as visions of dystopia. You know, and it raises a much deeper question: are human beings capable of handling not just the planet, but ourselves?
Didn't the sequels kind of get heavier?
Yeah.
I mean, they both got a little bit sillier in that kind of campy sense, but they also got a bit.
They you know, it was a big success, so of course they're going to exploit that. But I remember seeing Battle for the Planet of the Apes, or Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, I believe, the early 1970s with Roddy McDowell.
Is it the one where if I remember correctly, the two of the ape characters go back to the 70s? Is that?
I'm not sure. Once again, it's been a while since I've seen it. I saw it as an undergrad. But it's Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and basically the apes revolt, and they're overthrowing the humans, and yeah, no, it's basically about civil unrest, societal unrest and turmoil, and it was pretty easy to see, you know, the underlying metaphor, how the apes were actually, you know, how it was actually representative of class warfare and race warfare. And, you know, you look at the date of the film, it's 1973, you know, you've got the tail end of the civil rights movement, of the free love movement, of the women's rights movement, you know, and you're entering this new age of cynicism. Yeah, it's totally representative of civil unrest. And it was a pretty transparent film that, you know, definitely it stood for a lot of things that were happening within American society. But I remember it struck me as very profound, just by that it was a bunch of people running around in monkey suits.
Oh yeah. For transparency, I did a double check, and I think the one I was referring to was Escape from Planet of the Apes. I think I think that was the third one. I get lost in, because they don't go by numerically, and they kind of.
Yeah. I remember seeing Beneath the Planet of the Apes when I was like 4 or 5, and it scared the shit out of me. But, you know, and I was afraid of monkeys at the zoo for a long time after I saw that film on TV when my parents should have been supervising me. But yeah, no, it's, you know, like I remember vividly a scene from the 68 Planet of the Apes where Charlton Heston, you know, he's escaping his captors, and he finds his old crew member who had been taxidermied and stuffed, you know, like an exhibit in the museum or the zoo, like we do to animals. And it was just a macabre scene. You know, it was, you know, he had the fake eyes, and he'd obviously been stuffed, and he was, you know, no longer a living person, but just an exhibit in like the zoo or the museum. And that was a pretty profound image for me, seeing a taxidermied human. You know, and thinking, well, what we do to animals and what we do to other cultures, you know, what we do to the quote-unquote other is no less barbaric than what these fictional ape men and women are doing to the humans in the film. And I did think it was interesting how the only female human character was killed off almost at once. And her her whole point, it seemed, and correct me because it's been a while since I've seen this, it seemed like her whole point was just to help the men populate these planets with more humans. And so, in 68, women have gone far, but obviously not that far, because the only female human in the film was this sexy, pretty girl who is there for breeding purposes, and then she's killed off right away.
Oh, my.
So, it's... I don't know, maybe it's a more profound reason. Maybe it's, the idea of the separation of the sexes, or the fact that we can't... I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it.
No, it's all good. I'm glad this is a show about films that people have never seen before, because I'm right there with this series. Aside from the original, and admittedly the latter half of its franchise history, most recently with the reboot franchise, which has been doing particularly well.
It's
kind of hard to come. It's kind of hard to come back from like a campy kind of though serious and all, but still resembling a kind of old-fashioned campiness.
Well, it's also interesting how these films that were very iconic in the times they were released are being rebooted. They're being re-envisioned. And, there's a lot to say about remakes. What is the function of these remakes? Are they merely exploiting nostalgia? Are they merely, we don't want to take a risk on original material, so we're going to reboot familiar material? Or are the original messages, are they capable of being rebooted to fit current social, cultural, economic, political concerns? Because, the original Planet of the Apes was entirely political and cultural and social. So it's an interesting question to see the state of Hollywood films and what's being rebooted, how it's being rebooted, why it's being re-envisioned, and so on. Is it purely economics? Is it purely profit? Or is there, a more intricate set of stuff going on? But yeah, it's interesting. But I remember I didn't really care too much for the new Planet of the Apes, the one with Mark Wahlberg. I remember when I found out that he was cast.
Kill 'em all.
When I found out that Mark Wahlberg was cast in the original, well, not the original, the 2001 Tim Burton.
2001, yeah.
Really kind of forgettable Planet of the Apes, and I remember thinking, oh, Mark would be perfect to play an ape, but he was cast as a human, which I thought was ironic.
There's a big hullabaloo about the ending too, because the ending.
Abraham Lincoln.
Spoiled
it for everybody.
We saved you some time.
Yeah.
It's worth the Google search to look at the just the screenshot of the. Well, anywho, I think that's our 2 cents on
Planet of the Apes. Yeah, good movie. Glad you guys have gotten around to it.
Yeah, it's made me want to dive back into the old ones. Aside from the first, of course.
Get your paws off me, you damn dirty apes!
All right, our obligatory line's in. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So we talked about time travel and in this film. Yeah. And one thing, and I thought this when I originally seen the film that I'm going to be mentioning here in a second. It's crazy how I can watch this film and see its influence still in cinema today. Like for example, when I saw Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, I kept thinking a lot of the spacesuit designs and the ways that their ships look and like a lot of their tech reminds me so much of Planet of the Apes. And it's there just feels like there's this influence between the two, because like you could recut the trailer of Interstellar with scenes from Planet of the Apes, and I feel like it would work.
Yeah. With the exception of Dunkirk, which I'll be saying this week, Interstellar is the only Christopher Nolan film I have not seen.
I'm going to tell you to see it because, let me put it this way. When I first saw the trailers for that film, I was like, I have no interest in this movie at all. And then I heard it was going to be shown in 70mm, and I'm a sucker for gimmicks like that. I was like, well, maybe I should go see it. And I left emotionally drained. Wow. And for a movie I didn't want to see it first. It's something. So
yeah, he has certainly earned my trust, and would always give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, the lack of marketing or inaccurate marketing or whatever it was enough that it, with my current lifestyle and having the kids and it being so much work to get out and watch something or even sit down for 2 hours uninterrupted, it never made it to the table.
Yeah, I will say though, if you watch it loud. Like if you have to wear headphones or something, that works too. But just like, it's better loud. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain what I mean. Like, you know, sometimes you see a movie that'll have a card that comes up that says "Watch this movie loud." And it's like that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, but this one goes up to 11.
So with Planet of the Apes, we I guess I'm trying to refocus like everything that we've just said already. It's a very political film, and Pierre Boulle, when he wrote it while I'm trying to remember the exact story. If he wrote this one while he was a prisoner of war, or if that was Bridge over the River Kwai. I think it might have been Bridge over the River Kwai. But, you know, he was an author who had a lot of things to say. He had a lot of comments he was trying to make about the ways civilization was going. So by bringing in the two screenwriters they did, I'm going to be talking about the director very little in this one because I feel like the producers, the original author, and the screenwriters had a lot more to bring to this story than he did. Bringing in the two screenwriters they did was perfect because Rod Serling, we all know about his interest in civil rights and trying to comment on things and almost sneak things past people, because like that was the whole point of the Twilight Zone is connect with people about topics that they're too afraid to talk about in a way that you can easily swallow. Yep. And then what I was saying about Michael Wilson, how he's got a really sad story when it comes to this. He honestly has something he's really trying to say with this film. Michael Wilson was blacklisted in Hollywood during the because of supposedly being a communist. He wrote over 22 different screenplays, and near the end of his career, his name wasn't put on any of them.
Wow!
Like he originally wrote The Bridge on the River Kwai, and his daughter talks about him going to see that movie in the theater, and when the screenwriting credit comes up, his name isn't on there, and it drives him crazy. Sure. So here's a man who's being labeled as a communist, who's brought onto this film and said, "Hey, we want you to write this film with this very obvious political bent to it." And his daughter said that he wrote it with such anger when he was doing his version of it, because he said he had a lot to say. And so when you think of like a lot of Taylor's rants, well, over the top, knowing that there's something behind it, like is crazy. Like how, like because Bridge over the River Kwai was also a Pierre Boulle story, and instead of having Michael Wilson's credit come up, they just said based on a book by Pierre Boulle. So he's ignored completely.
Wow. You know, that could be another explanation of why, for me, Charlton Heston's performance made more sense in the second half, because what was being said had the emotional foundation to justify that level of delivery. Whereas the stuff in the first half is, you know, we're just crash landed on a planet and he doesn't really seem to care. He's like, yep, I came out here to die, basically, and have fun doing it. Yet it was still so over the top there that it clashed with the tone, with the seeming tone.
But no, but later on in the film, like you're saying, like especially like there's that line where like you know, when he gets his voice back, and doesn't he say like "Get your damn hands off me," and like that's the proof that he can speak. Like he gets better in the film at that point. Like it's like you said, I think it's being motivated for something. And while I don't know for sure, I'd like to believe that a lot of those courtroom scenes were written by Michael Wilson. You know, because he had to go to court to prove that he wasn't a communist and all that other stuff. It's like, you know, pretty much being on trial for something, you know, that they're claiming you're doing. and there's no proof behind it, and they're just going off of fear and what they believe to be true. And
well, we all know communists are evil, and we think you're evil, therefore you're a communist. Yeah.
Communists are evil. We know you're evil because, like, hell, look at you. So you must be a communist. You know, and, like, Taylor was speaking, and he was trying to prove that, you know, like, this is all happening. And, like, what did they keep saying? Oh, you were made in a laboratory, or you're just an anomaly. And to find out in the long run, and this is, like, for me, this, like, rewatching the film now, this reveal is more impactful than the fact that they're still on Earth, was the fact that Dr. Zaius this entire time knew that everything Taylor was saying is true. He just didn't want that information to get out, and he's going to cover it any way possible.
Yep. Oh, another Twilight Zone reference when they're in the caves and they find the doll, and it mama, totally, like, again, not knowing watching it that it was Rod Serling, reminded me of the Talking Tina episode.
Oh my God, Talking Tina.
So horrifying, that episode. Probably one of the scariest Twilight Zone episodes.
But no, like after knowing Rod Serling's work, and knowing, well, I have seen some of the films that Michael Wilson's written, but I feel like his story as a person is far more interesting. It's really interesting. You can kind of see, like, who wrote what, where it came from, and
right.
Yeah, because like I said, Michael Wilson, he the fact that he wrote some of the biggest films of all time, The Bridge over the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, and he was not credited.
Yeah.
Like, cool. He got paid and everything for it, but like, you want to be credited.
People don't get into writing for the money
because it's a thankless job. Yeah, I just felt like Michael Wilson's story really had to be touched on, because I think it's an important part of what makes Planet of the Apes so biting. And while the film is dated, it really is. Like, I think at the time, I'm sure, like, it probably unsettled some people. Like, I was talking to Amanda, absolutely. And she thought, like, some of the political stuff was a little on the nose, but it's like, this is 1968. You didn't, unless you're doing a film of, like, for example, The Bridge over the River Kwai, where you're doing a film about a specific event and there's politics involved, you didn't comment on politics. That's why
right. Oh, and it also wasn't on the nose in the way that, like, say, Avatar was, where you spend it the whole time, like, eye rolling. They didn't hide it. It wasn't subtle, but it also wasn't obnoxious.
Like, I think the newer films do a better job of it being a little more subtle. At least in the, you know, and then it gets more overt as the series goes on, but
sure, and there are times where you don't want subtlety in your message, and I think it worked.
No, I completely agree, and so like I said, I feel like the producers and the screenwriter are really who to thank for the success of this film. Nothing against Franklin J. Schaffner, just like, because, you know, he directed the movie Patton. And Papillion, so he's got experience with this idea of war and everything. I just feel like a lot of the commentary came from the screenwriters and the original author and the producer who wanted to make this movie. He took a chance on it, and here we have this pretty, in a lot of ways, heavy political film that goes on to become huge and spawns toys and series and more movies. And actually the next one, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, is one I really like. I actually, from an entertainment level, like it better than the original. Okay. And it's crazy because, like, most people contribute Star Wars with being the film that started the merchandising boom, but no, Planet of the Apes was huge. So, yeah, nice. That was a lot of ranting.
It was good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go over my notes. Like, this episode already feels kind of weird and disjointed, but you know.
And that's what we do best.
Yeah. We kind of already talked about, because of us talking about Charlton Heston, that Taylor's kind of a jackass. He's very unsympathetic.
Hey, Here, human, take this woman. You like women, don't you? Yes, I shall claim it as my own.
And like you were saying before, like when they crash landed, here are these two other scientists who are having, they just watched one of their friends die. They've been in space for months, so they've all got to know each other. They were kind of freaking out, thinking they're never going to see home ever again. And he's like, well, you agreed to come on this trip. Crunch. On his... I didn't know what sound a stogie would make when you bite into it, so it won't crunch.
Right. Well, it's for that crunchy audio.
I like that crunch. I think that might have been a joke off air, so I don't know if anyone got that joke.
Even if it was on air, most people don't get my jokes. That was a cut on me, not the listening audience. I did enjoy the one ape that was had clearly gone and like confiscated his cigar. And brought up all kinds of amazing imagery of chimpanzees on tricycles with a stogie and a fez or something.
Yeah, and actually, I wrote down some of Charlton Heston's weirder or just more over the top or whatever lines. My favorite being, "It's a madhouse." And then my favorite line of his other than "Don't trust anyone over 30," is Charlton Heston trying to be deep and philosophical. Lots of women, lots of love making, but no love.
oh, Charlie.
Oh, you're so deep, Chuck.
My body is ready.
And then he mentions at one point the woman on this spacecraft, I don't remember what her name is precious cargo. And that they would repopulate with his hot, eager help. Let that sink in.
Yeah, that's objectification 101. So, as liberal as the film is and was, clearly also a victim of
sexism.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A smidge.
Now, which screenwriter's going to take credit for that? I like to imagine it was all just improv by Charlton Heston.
Right. Every day, the screenwriter's taking him aside. Dude, I appreciate what you're bringing to the film, but knock it off with the misogyny. Please, you are killing us.
That's what they told me in the 10 Commandments. And you know what I told them? Repent, and thou shalt be saved, you damn dirty ape. I think you're getting your movies confused. If there were no apes in the 10 Commandments, what was Vincent Price? Just Vincent Price. But he was shaved. Yeah, he shaved for the movie.
So you shave a monkey and now you tell me that I can't treat women like objects.
And you're also telling me you just shave a monkey and you get Vincent Price? What is this? And that's not what we're saying, Charlie.
You take my guns and now I can't protect humanity from the apes. They have guns themselves. They're riding horses, for God's sakes.
I know this. I know we don't have a really big budget, but can we get a better actor in here?
Oh, Calculon!
Oh. And scene. So,
you're all extremely welcome for that.
So, Nick, you mentioned that, well, you didn't hate the film in any extent, but it didn't really, it didn't work for you on all levels. Well, I think, if we would have seen this in 1968, this probably be one of our favorite movies of all time. I got that feeling. Just, like you said, knowing the references, knowing the fact that everyone's lampooned it. It's the reason why the reveal of Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi... Not Return of the Jedi, sorry, Empire Strikes Back, will never be as impactful because of all the jokes and everything. So
right, and even had I not seen it when it was released, had I seen it when I was 12 or 14, even in that time period before I was exposed to all of the pop culture crap and before I had defined my own film taste so much, I think it would have been much more impactful.
That's actually gonna be my question. Well, one, do you think it would have been more impactful, which you answered, and then two,
yes.
Where does this movie stand for you? Is it a movie you think you'll ever go back to, or is it just you're glad you saw it, but you move on?
It's enough that I'm very interested in the franchise as a whole, particularly the new ones, because I had issues with, in particular, the misogyny of the original. So I'd like to see the modern take on it, but I'd also like to develop a foundation of some of the other films before I see the newer ones to put it in context.
Well, you don't have to, because you can still enjoy. Because Amanda had never seen any of the other Apes films, but she absolutely loves the new ones. They're not. Okay. They're connected, but not in a way where you have to see them all.
Sure, you probably get a little more out of it.
It's a prequel. It's also kind of a reimagining. It's, you can definitely see how what they're trying to do as far as things kind of lining up, but it's not it's kind of like how you don't have to see the original Mad Max to enjoy Fury Road.
Okay.
Because first time me and my mom were watching Planet of the Apes around when me and Amanda first got together, Amanda fell asleep, not because she wasn't enjoying the movie, just because she got tired. So this is the first time she had actually seen the movie, but she had seen all the new ones and she loves them. I'm still working through the original Apes franchise myself. I a couple years ago I watched Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and it's so fucking weird. I don't want to spoil anything because there's some great what the fuck moments in that movie, but they do a better job of showing civilization before it fell. At one point,
okay,
and one of the characters is walking through an old subway station, so you get to see a little bit of what happened, which is kind of cool.
Right.
But no, I got all the films on a collection on Blu-ray for $14 from Walmart at one point, so I've got them all. Yeah,
nice.
And they each one has the first one is maybe 60 minutes, but each film has got a making of documentary that continues the story of here's how the first one was made, and then after you watch the second one, you can watch how they continued on, and so that's pretty great in itself. Yeah.
Cool.
Let me continue to go through my notes. This episode, we say this all the time, but this episode is weird because we unpacked so much during our initial thoughts.
Then we're just playing cleanup now.
I think that's most of my notes. Let me scan through the Wikipedia page super quick to see if there's anything that pops out at me that I feel like I might have missed. I can't say the character Dr. Zaius without thinking of that joke from The Simpsons where they
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius,
exactly.
Dr. Zaius.
It just has to happen. And there's that amazing line from that episode of The Simpsons too, where he's like, "I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee."
Help! The human's about to escape.
Get your paws off me, you dirty ape!
He can talk.
He can talk, 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 he can talk.
I can sing!
Ooh, help me, Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Oh, Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
What's wrong with me?
I think you're crazy.
Want a second opinion?
You're also lazy.
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Oh, Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
Can I play the piano anymore?
Of course you can.
Well, I couldn't before.
This play has everything.
Oh, I love legitimate theater.
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee. No, you'll never make a monkey out of me. Oh my God, I was wrong.
It was Earth all along. You finally made a monkey.
Yes, we finally made a monkey.
Yes, you finally made a monkey out of me. I love you, Dr. Zayas.
And then, like, I never realized that, like, until that episode, that Troy McClure is totally Charlton Heston.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which is great. One thing I wanted to talk about was just some of the music and the way the movie was shot. The movie is just a really well shot movie.
Oh,
it's
the opening sequence was really fascinating.
With them traversing through the Forbidden Zone.
Of the thing more in particular, the spaceship crash.
Oh yeah.
I would be very interested to see what kind of camera rig that was and how they shot it, because there was a strange like bend to each shot where one side would kind of stretch and then the rest of it would follow behind it. So there was clearly some kind of a extreme fisheye, but one that did not encompass the entirety of the shot.
Yeah, it was really interesting too. I completely agree. And then like just all the sequence of them traversing through the canyons of the Forbidden Zone. Like obviously you can't see stuff like that without thinking of like a Western or something. But like,
yeah, well, it's that whole sequence was straight out of I Shot an Arrow into the air. That was the majority of that episode, was them traversing I believe it's shot in the Badlands.
I don't remember that episode very well, so I definitely want to go check that out. But like, I also love
just take a little cutout of Charlton Heston's face and like tape it to your TV. And then you've got the first 15 minutes of Planet of the Apes.
I also love that, like, they shot this in Panavision, very wide screen. It really showed off those massive vistas. But I will say, that very nice widescreen photography did not do the film any justice later on when they're in Ape City. Because some of those sets do not look very good. Like, anytime they're outside or in the wilderness, it looks fantastic, but some of those sets, not my favorite.
It felt like a special episode of a TV series from that era. Like, they go to Hawaii, but they're still using shitty sets, and they got nicer cameras for this one special, and so all of their TV-style techniques aren't paying off.
If I had to describe it, it's... their interior sets are the equivalent of all of Star Trek's exterior sets.
Right.
They put all their money into Star Trek put all their money into the spaceship, that whenever they have to deviate from, they're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. We's broke.
I also want to talk a little bit about Jerry Goldsmith's score, and Jerry Goldsmith is a fantastic composer. For example, he did like the Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He did Chinatown, The Omen, Alien, Gremlins, Total Recall. Like he did so much, and I like that he did a very avant-garde score for this movie. Something just a little different. And the Blu-ray I have has a isolated film score, and I was just listening to it the other day when I was doing the makeup, or not doing the makeup, when I was doing the dishes. I was on the wiki page, and it said makeup by blank, and so I got confused. But I was listening to it when I was doing dishes, and I was like, this is just really bold choice, because Goldsmith is fantastic because he's very melodic, and he writes some of the I have to say some of the most beautiful scores of all time, and the fact that he chose to do something that's a lot of percussion and horns, but not in a very melodic way. I just thought it was really an interesting choice.
Yeah, well, it was a time of more experimentation in art and film and music, and I think that was it had that vibe for me.
And then we honestly can't talk about Planet of the Apes without mentioning, to an extent, the makeup. Because,
Right.
for 1968 to do full body ape suits that aren't masks, they're actually like practical appliances. Like, Roddy McDowall obviously is the best of them, all of them, because like he just found a way to emote through all that makeup as Cornelius. Because like Zero wasn't too bad. Like Maurice Evans was Dr. Zaius. Like there's times where he was barely even moving the mouth, but you could tell that like he was struggling with it a little bit. But like Roddy McDowall found a way to get so much out of that makeup.
Yep. Though Dr. Zaius,
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius.
It wasn't total. From chimpanzee to chimpanzee. I think it worked because of he was more of a sullen character, and maybe that was part of the challenge was trying to get strong sullen through, but it didn't play as stiff for me because it made sense for the character.
It wasn't stiff. It just like there's times where like his mouth wasn't really moving, and I was like, he probably doesn't because like he's probably under his mask doing a very specific performance, but not realizing that it's not translating to. But anyways, it's not a knock on him because he's such a great villain. And I was saying to Amanda, like there's things about this movie that work today in our current political climate.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Zaius, he there's just like you wouldn't there's characters like him in our world today.
Well, one of I think it's in part why this film keeps getting spoofed. Futurama did one not too long ago, but after they were rebooted, where I believe the character's name is Dr. Banjo, gets into an argument with the professor about the missing link, even though they've come up with like 37 missing links. Like Dr. Banjo believes that they aren't connected because there's also another missing link in this chain, and between robots and humans, maybe. I remember the episode ends up going into like how man created robots, but there's a lot of that political and the politics of religion and how religion influences policy. In that episode that they pulled from
there's also some like references I never got were from later films that were Planet of the Apes in Futurama that I didn't get until I saw them, and there's one that I really want to tell you, but I don't know if I don't want to spoil it for you because it's amusing to catch on your own. But no, they make reference, like there's things that they did in Futurama that I didn't even realize were references to later Apes films, which is kind of great.
Right.
I think we're kind of winding down with everything we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Parting words, thoughts, Nick?
I don't think so. I'm glad I watched it, and I did enjoy it. I got a lot out of it. I can see why it is still spoofed today. I think it's an important film. If not, it's certainly a victim of its time, and there are problems with the film that I got hung up on that it sounds like the newer films aren't a victim of. I do wonder how much of that was Charlton Heston himself and how much was the creative team that put it together. But no, overall it was enjoyable, and I'm glad I saw it.
Good. I think that might be everything.
Yeah. So, do we have one for next episode? I think
you mentioned Dark City.
Okay, then we're on the same page. Though we could go Tobe Hooper film as well.
Yeah, do you have one you'd want? Well, I guess it would be off my shame list this time, right? Like, I guess going off of that. I don't know what I could find. I am fine doing. Sorry, I got distracted with something for a second. I am fine doing Dark City if you want to. I feel like I shouldn't have a hard time finding it.
Yeah, I'm particularly stoked about Dark City. So I think we'll stick with
Perfect.
that.
Cool. Then I guess it's Dark City for our next episode.
Woo!
I still have not written any sort of outro to this show. Eventually I will.
I kind of liked our thing where we just stammer around for 10 minutes and eventually just click, record, stop.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, before we end, I thought I would mention this. I realized that I like silent films, but I haven't seen a whole lot of them since I've been out of film school. So I decided there's quite a few of them still on YouTube. So I decided the other day to watch one that I've been missing, and I watched Buster Keaton's The General. And
Nice.
I just have to say this, like, the more and more I watch Buster Keaton, the more and more I love him, and just realize this man's a fucking genius. And like, he's so the things that he does, and like doesn't use stunt doubles, does all of his own practical effects in camera, like doesn't cut away, like he's a madman, he's a mad genius. And while I know there's a lot of times people will prefer Chaplin over him, I just feel like, for my money, Buster Keaton's the man. So,
nice.
The General is on YouTube. You can watch it there. It's like an action-adventure silent film from 1926. So if you know, for our listeners, if you don't like silent films, I'd say give them a shot. Like, I personally think Sherlock Jr. is his masterpiece for my money, and that'd be a great place to start. But like, there's a lot you could learn still from these old movies. Especially if you're a fan of Wes Anderson, because this guy, you could tell that he really loves Buster Keaton because he's taken a lot from his films. Not in a bad way, like just paying tribute to.
Yeah. Nice. I rewatched The Neverending Story recently.
Story.
Which is so great. So great.
I remember as a kid really liking the sequel. I don't know if it holds up, though.
It does not.
Oh, I like the idea of
Jonathan Brandis.
I just love the idea of Bastian being in the book, and I don't know. And then there wasn't the third one that had Jack Black reading the book. That was funny.
I was not.
It was like one of Jack Black's first roles, and he was like a like a bully and everything, and like he was picking on Bastian, and Bastian got sucked into the book again, and he's reading from the Neverending Story as it's going on, and there's a great scene where like it cuts to Jack Black reading. It's like, and in this moment, Bastian didn't know if he'd live or die, and he just looks up slowly as there's a thunder crack, because you're seeing like he actually cares about this kid. Jack Black, Neverending Story 3.
All right, well, I have to add that to my shame list now.
It's not one we actually have to talk about, but you should at least see it. But anyways, continue talking about Neverending Story. I cut you off so I could talk about 3.
Yeah, that's all right. That was just how much I love it. I am 100% sure that at some point in the not too distant future, I will end up with an orange symbol tattoo.
That'd be cool. It's prime time for me to rewatch Neverending Story. It's been a couple years. I remember I was still in college, and I bought a DVD 2-pack of 1 and 2, and I remember watching 1 and thinking, oh, this was great, and never got around back to 2.
Yeah.
But I just remember like just bold set designs
and character design and music, and that the kids can fucking act, man.
It's also impressive too, because like here's a fully fleshed world, and while it is based on a book, right?
Yeah.
You don't normally see like set design and character design and everything so good. That's not from something a little more established.
Right. There's the going back to the kids' acting ability, the sequence where Artex sinks in the swamps of sadness, and anyone who has seen that movie, like you mentioned the Neverending Story, and they start tearing up over this kid losing his horse and best friend. They don't really establish a relationship between him and his horse leading up to that point. They don't spend a lot of time on it. It is Atreyu's delivery in that scene that sells it 100%. You believe without a shadow of a doubt that kid is losing his best friend in that swamp. When he doesn't overdo it to its detriment. He gives it the emotional energy it deserves without it becoming over the top. And it is heartbreaking.
I'm gonna call it now that kid who played Artex. Oh, sorry, I got him backwards.
Yeah.
It's been a couple years. Leave me alone. The kid that played Atreyu.
I didn't know a kid played a horse.
He's a great actor.
Can't use cows. Gotta paint horses.
I got a feeling that kid could act circles around our boy Chuck Heston.
Yeah. A monkey could add toward. Sorry, I'm being too mean.
I'm now thinking, like, remember in Zoolander how they had like their dance off or their walk off?
Yeah.
I don't even know what the movie would be about. I guess it'd have to be about actors. I'd want to see some sort of competition where it's an act off, where two characters have to do competitive acting.
I apologize for my 27th reference to Futurama in this episode, but they have that where Calculon is facing off against that character. He was just in the one episode. He had to wear a bag over his head because he fed off of attention, and he had a separate ego that was like a weird mushroom dog. And they do at some point have an act off where Calculon is doing Romeo and Juliet, and then this other guy is doing a scene from Beantown Buddies where he's just like, he has this heavy Boston accent and is mourning over the loss of his friend.
Like Futurama, there's that an episode of South Park where Butters is talking, like he's coming up with all these ways to rule the world, and his sidekick is like, "Oh, the Simpsons already did that." And he's like, "Damn it, the Simpsons have done everything." Yeah. That's Futurama for sci-fi.
Right.
Futurama did that already.
Absolutely.
God damn it.
Ah!
And anything with politics, South Park's got that covered. Well, there's no new ideas. Those three shows ruined everything for everyone.
Right. And Twilight Zone already did everything that Rod Serling did later. No new ideas.
Nope.
Rod Serling is such a 156 trick pony. Like, seriously, come up with an original idea, Rod.
Do something different, Rod.
Jesus.
Serling. I don't have an end to this joke. I'm just gonna exit this segment.
I think that was the end. So next time we will watch Dark City. We will try and be nicer to both Charlton Heston and Rod Serling, though Rod Serling clearly deserves it, while Charlton Heston does not.
I still have been trying to figure out a way to get Eddie Munster on this show. I don't know if he I'm seriously considering just emailing him or his manager and seeing what happens.
Seriously.
Like, and it's not, I'm just going to pitch straight to him. It's like, maybe it'll be a slight interview, but it's like, really, we just want to talk to him about movies. Like, he can pick a movie he hasn't seen, or pick a movie for us that that he doesn't think we've seen. And
by Eddie Munster, you mean Milo, right?
Yes.
I just want to be real clear about that. By the way,
I was walking through the back rooms at Target. I should elaborate for all the listeners. I currently work at Target. So I wasn't just hanging out back there. And I walked past the electronics area, and they were like unloading new books. And what book was on the top?
Phantom Tobe.
Yep. And I was like, "Hey, they're putting it on the shelves. Nick would love this."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Oh, Nick."
Did you swoon?
A little bit. Someone had to catch me and everything. And then they're like, "Oh, he's heavy. Let's just drop him." Fuck this fat guy. It's his beard.
The beard adds 20 pounds.
But it slims me on camera. So next week, Dark City. This is worth mentioning. Well, by the time this episode is released, so this coming Thursday, being August 14th, for anyone, who's listening to this in Wisconsin, the Avalon Theater in Bayview is doing a Tobe Hooper double feature. $5 per movie. But it's one of the only times you're going to see on the big screen a double feature of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I don't know how often Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 plays. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it hadn't played since 1985. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 plays pretty regularly. However, they've got the new 4K remaster they did a couple years ago, so it's going to look fantastic. But seriously, everyone who's listening, come support Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, because if we support the deep cuts, these places will start programming them more. Because, like, when the Avalon did a thing, it's like, oh, what movie would you like to see? And everyone's voting Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 or Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 or Poltergeist. And I was like, well, those are great films. They play everywhere, and they will play again. Let's pick something a little more deep from his...
Well, and that plays into the whole, like, people complaining about the movies that are coming out nowadays. Like, and that's bad producing. That they're telling us what we want to see. Well, you know what? Support the things that aren't that. If you want to see something different in the theater, go see something different when it comes out, and that will prove to them that there's money to be made there.
Like, both Texas Chainsaw 1 and Poltergeist are great films, but I really want Texas Chainsaw 2 to have a big audience, so that way they'll book stuff like this more often.
Yep.
The reason the New Beverly Theater in Los Angeles does so well is because they got a rabid fan base that will come see strange movies that no one's ever heard of. You know, if you're only going to come support the most popular choice, then we're not going to get nice things. You know,
right? This is why we can't have nice things.
They're doing like polls for what they want to do this Halloween, and I said instead of doing the John Carpenter's original Halloween, show Halloween 3 because it never plays.
Okay, I love Halloween 3. It is so great. Yes, it is separate from the franchise. I understand that, but it is still a great cornball like horror movie that is still actually scary. That 8 More Days Till Halloween song fucking sticks in your head for 2 weeks after you watch it. It is beautiful. Silver Shamrock.
Also, my wife just texted me and told me that I said the wrong date. It's September 14th, not August 14th. September 14th.
You'd have a bunch of people showing up in the past.
By the time you're listening to this, if you listen to it on time, come tonight and see Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It has the greatest chainsawing scene set to Oingo Boingo that you will ever see. And if you need any more justification than that to see it, Dennis Hopper double wielding chainsaws fighting Leatherface. Like, if you don't like this movie, then you just don't like cinema.
Then you are wrong. Your opinion is
like, and
bullshit.
I just love that Tobe Hooper directed it and pretty much said, well, I'm just gonna spoof my own fucking movie and just make something so off the wall. You'll never forget this movie. I've showed this movie to people who don't like horror films, and they're like, they left, like, maybe not necessarily liking it, but like, I'm never gonna forget that movie.
Right.
Like, at one point, like, Leatherface grabs his chainsaw and like starts thrusting it like it's his member, like it's his little chainsaw, and like, there's just scenes that you'll never forget. So,
I hope you will now forever call your member your little chainsaw.
No, I'd call it my big chainsaw. All right.
I don't have a bigger chainsaw.
All right, Nick, let's wrap this up.
Yep.
You have a good one. We'll talk soon. Everyone, thank you for listening. While we don't have an official outro, I got to keep remembering, please let us, if you like what we're doing, like and rate us on iTunes, subscribe on whatever device. It really helps us out. We're trying to find sponsors and get people interested in the show. If they know you're listening, that helps. Like, we really appreciate when you tell us personally, like, oh, I really like that episode. Tell us on the Facebook page.
You really, maybe we should post a picture, because I think what's going to do it is them knowing how giddy we get when somebody comments, and the two of us, like, text each other, we have these big grins on our faces, and we get derpy for a minute. And
yeah, like, it's...
Please, continue making us derpy.
But, like, let's get some conversation going on the Facebook page, and, you know, when I see something interesting that's relevant, I try to share it over there, but just let's keep the conversation going. And, If you're ever listening and like you want to comment on one of if you saw a movie because of one of our episodes, record something. We'll play it. Like I had a friend who had never seen In the Mouth of Madness, but decided to because we talked about it, and that's awesome.
Yay!
So, all right, Nick.
Awesome.
You have a good
one, buddy.
Bye.
Later.